Hi, everybody. I'm in a different place today. My personal favorite place to do any sort of recording or talking is actually my kitchen, which I find hilarious. I don't have the space in my kitchen, but I still like to do it. Um, so we're gonna do chapter 3, and I'm gonna change things up a little bit because I really don't like the way that I've done it the last couple times. So when I told y'all, just lost a nail. Do y'all see that? That used to be orange. Okay. I'm actually not, I like the design of these, but I don't like how kind of sucky they are to put on and to keep on. The other ones that I've had have done much better. Okay, so I'm going to touch on both of them, but I'm not going to read them through like what I have been doing. Sorry, there is a dog hair in that, and I don't like it. Okay, so for the 31 days of prayer during infertility, for them it's days. So we've got day 3, which is pray for community, which I'll be honest with, I've gone back and forth. My OCD is driving me nuts because I can't pick that nail up. So, oh my goodness gracious. Um, Sorry. Okay. So I really didn't want to talk to anybody when I was going through the process of IVF, talk to really anybody about infertility. I didn't want to do any of that. Because to be honest, I didn't want to hear, and I talked about this before, I didn't want to hear about anybody else's struggles because I think when we're going through this, we have a valid reason for wanting to be selfish. And some people are not like that, and some people are, and I think that that's okay. So this chapter actually really does cover that, but the verse that they have here, which I love, is Galatians 6:2, and I'm going to read that because I do think that that's important. As I flip too far. Galatians 6:2 says, bear ye one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So that to me means that we are there, we're to support each other, we're to help each other, we're to help other Christians, we're to help other people who are going through struggles. And in this, it's a lot harder to let people in because this is a very personal and very private struggle that we're having. But you don't want to go through it alone. Maybe not consciously you don't want to go through it alone. For me, I really wanted my husband to be more vocal in his understanding of that. And I told him that, and there were times where he to me sucked at it, and there were times where I'm like, man, this man is amazing. And we go back and forth, and I think that really depends on the level of medication that you're on at that time. But I think it's important to have a community of people. Like I said, I have a friend who I'll stay up and message her back and forth till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And so, and she has gone through some struggles with, fertility and miscarriages and things like that. So she could understand on a certain level. So one of the reasons why I think a lot of the time we don't like to open up about it is because it's very emotional and it's very risky to be so open with yourself. You are bearing your soul at that point. And oh my gosh, my computer's gonna die. Hush, puppies. How much time do I have left? I have to go get my charger. Um, so, but one of the things is that, if you're involved in a community that has an IVF community, an infertility community, a fertility community, whatever it is, you go through that. Well, what if she gets pregnant? What if that works for her, but it doesn't for me? Or what if this works for me and doesn't for her? And you are struggling with that. And so you sometimes I think you talk yourself out of it. I talked myself out of it, and then God put it on my heart going, no, 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 no. You're now going to be the leader of this, and you're going to talk this out and bring other people together. So I guess that's what I get for not wanting to cooperate in the beginning. So I'm doing some baking today for Halloween. I'm making some candies and bread and all that stuff. And so I got my little apron on. Um, so, and I'm gonna skim this, and as I'm skimming this, when something kind of, pulls me to talk about it, I'm going to, but you know, it, not only are we supposed to show up to help one another, but I mean, God is constantly there showing up for us, and we may not realize that, we may not see that, especially when we are in pain, especially when we're hurting. Um, but I mean, we're missing out on a lot of love and prayer and help and guidance and just emotional support when we don't share that struggle that we're having. So I think sometimes we need to put our own egos aside, which is hard, right there with you. We just need to put them aside and just try. Um, Now I know sometimes that's way easier said than done. And sometimes I think it's okay that you don't. That you maybe take a few minutes and you're by yourself, or maybe you take a month and you're by yourself. There are times that I would quit going to places because I knew the people there were going to be pregnant. We're going to be talking about babies. And at this moment, I still don't even go to baby showers. I don't want to do that. Um, and there's two reasons for that. One is that a lot of the time, especially people who know you, and sadly, this is a lot of the older generation, um, they'll turn to you and they'll go, "Well, when are you gonna have a baby?" And it's like that, none of your business. And you want to be polite and you want to be kind because they don't mean anything by it. But it's like, really, uh, shut up. And you can't say that because it's rude. And then the other reason I don't go is because people are pregnant. They're having the things in their life that I so desperately want, and it's harder for me to feel excited for them when I'm so sad. But we do need to kind of resist staying that way all the time. You know, um, we we do have that tendency to pull away, to isolate ourselves, to keep ourselves away from that. Um, and I think that it's important that we are there for one another. We are there to support each other. Um, and that doesn't mean that you have to open yourself up to people who maybe have no idea what you're going through. Find a community that does, because they're going to understand better than anybody the struggle you're going through. Whereas somebody who's not had any of that struggle, they may not understand. They may not be able to help you in any way. And so being careful with your community is okay. It's important. The Waiting in Hope, this one, I prefer this one over the other one, if I can be a little biased. Um, it says it's running low, so I need to go get my charger real quick. So I'm gonna pause you guys. Okay, charger plugged in. Okay, so um, this chapter for um Waiting in Hope is, "Who am I if not a mother?" And this verse is 1 John 3:1. And so I'm going to read that one as well. And I'm skipping a lot of the verses that were in, actually, I'm skipping all of the verses but one in the other one. Um, because I don't want this to be a 45-minute thing. I don't want this to be an hour thing. I want this to be something that somebody can watch and get a quick pick me up, if you will, for this. And at the same time, I want to get this across and to let people know, hey, this is where we're at. This is what's going on. This is where I'm at. And let's go from there. So 1 John 3:1 says, "Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not." Now, the note down here for that is the concept that John uses here to describe God's relationship to believers as a father to children points on the one hand to God's personal, relational, and loving nature. On the other hand, it defines the statutes of Christians. They are members of God's household. So, I don't know how to explain all that, to be honest with you. I'm not a Bible scholar. I don't know. But I do know that we're part of his family, and nobody ever wants to see their family suffer. And So I know that when I was having some sort of problem or some sort of issue, I can go to my dad or my mom and say, hey, can you help me? And so I know if we go to God, who is our Father, our supreme and ultimate Father, say, hey, I need your help. Whether that's continuing to pray for the struggling journey that we're on, continuing to pray for guidance in that, or to say, hey, I I need your guidance. I need you to take this pain away. And it could be any of those things because he's going to help us in whatever way. Um, so this chapter here is who am I if not a mother? A lot of people start dreaming about being a mom when they're little itty bitty. I remember playing with Barbie dolls, and I remember having my baby dolls, and I remember doing all of those things, pretending I was their mom, writing little stories about me being a mom and having all of these kids, and going through my teenage years, going, oh, I just want to be a mom. I want to be a mom, and getting married and thinking, okay, that's gonna happen now, and here I am, almost 5 years later, nothing. And yes, I have two stepkids who are my kids, but as horrible as it may be, I want a, a biological child. I want to have that feeling and that emotional connection that I think personally biologically happens when you are that parent. Now, I have been told before by family members that I'm not a real mom because my kids are not biologically my kids. And I think that's a load of horse crap. I have gotten up with my kids when they've been sick. I have patted their back when they had a nightmare. I have given them medicine when they've been sick. I homeschool them every single day. I cook them dinner. I make breakfast. I do lunch. I take them to their events. I worry about them when they're not here. So I do all of the same things that a mother does. I just didn't give birth to them. And so to be told that I'm not a real mother really pissed me off. But I think that there is a very deep connection when you give birth to a child that I don't have with my two kids. And I don't think of them any less. And I don't think of myself any less as their mom. They call me mom. I tell people I have two kids. And, but knowing that I have not carried a child does hurt. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that feeling. Even though any of us who are step parents may think that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because God gave us the desire to want to be moms and to want to have children. And I don't think that means just being happy with the stepchildren that we have, or being even happy if you adopt children or if you're a foster parent. I don't think that any of that makes you any less because you want your own biological child. And other people may disagree, and other people may judge us for it, and they can suck it. I don't care. Um, and you may be a stepmom, and you may have a high conflict birth mother that you deal with that make sure, to point out to you that you're not their mom. You're not the real mom. You're not the real mom. And they may influence that child to say that. I know when my youngest gets pissed off at me because I won't let him do whatever he wants, he'll get mad at me and he'll scream and he'll yell and he'll cuss at me and he'll go, well, you're not my real mom. And I go, well, I may not be your real mom, but I'm the mom in this house and you're not going to do that. So go to your room. And so whatever. Um, so who am I if I'm not a mom? And it's hard to find your identity in that when that's all you've wanted your entire life. And for some people, maybe they didn't care about having kids until they got older. Maybe they didn't want kids until they got married. Um, and and that's and then when that proves to be a struggle, um, then that really hits you and that really hurts. And it's hard to find that balance of not having that be your full 100% thought all the time, because that's hard for me. And I cry a lot. I think that's part of the reason why I'm baking so much. I mean, I'm baking a massive amount. I'm cooking in my kitchen or baking in my kitchen probably 2 or 3 times a day. I've already got dinner on for today, which that's normal. You have to do that. But I'm making 100, no, I'm making 100 grand bars. I'm making peanut butter cups later. We're passing out candy because it's um, Halloween today. I mean, I'm gonna make chocolate lava cake later. Like I made sandwich bread last night. I've got it hidden in here because I don't this holes and I don't want the bread to go bad. So it's in a Walmart bread wrapper so that it stays fresh. But I mean I bake all of this to distract myself because I don't feel as if I have an identity anymore. When I lost my job in June, and with that job being gone, it took away the funds for us to be able to continue with IVF. So um, to the a-hole who fired me, appreciate it because I didn't fit into their plan. Thanks for, making my life 3 times as hard, and I cry myself to sleep every night. You feel those emotions and you feel angry, and I'm still angry about it, and I'm probably gonna be angry about it for a while. And I ask for help with that sometimes, but I think some of the time I'm okay with being angry about it, and I don't want that anger to go away because it fuels me to do something right, wrong, or indifferent it does. Um, so, but with that being said, when we are going through all of those emotions, when we are going through how am I going to pay for this? What am I going to do? Is this treatment going to work? What if I'm not a mom? Do I have an identity anymore? And my identity is just, I've worked my whole life. I've worked since I was 13 years old. And now I don't. And now I'm like, what do I do? Well, I cook and I bake and I clean. Can't tell it right now about my kitchen table, but I homeschool my kids. I take my kids to their events. I try to, my husband and I do a podcast. I'm going to start one all by myself. I'm doing this. And I just started my own Pampered Chef business because I bake and cook so much that I want to be able to do something to help contribute financially to the house because I can't do that as much anymore because I don't have a job. And I go through, well, now that I don't have this job, I can't afford to pay for IVF and I can't do this, which means it's going to be even harder for me to have my own children, biologically mine. And um and it's just this whirlwind of emotions and I cry a lot and I go, God, please stop this. I can't do this. Um so um mentally it's difficult to go through this process because we're not sure of who we are, what our identity is. And so we struggle. And sorry, I had to blow my nose. Um, and so when we have these, and so I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember what I was like the exact word that I left off on. So we have this identity crisis. We have this struggle that we don't know who we are. We don't know what we're going to do. Um, and we struggle with it emotionally and we struggle with it sometimes physically. And, I know one of my biggest things is when I don't feel like I'm in control of my life or I don't have anything that I feel in control of at all, I will, um, I'll dye my hair and, or I'll chop it off. And, um, then I feel in control because that's something that I can control. So one thing that I do like here in chapter 3 here is that in Genesis chapter 1 it says God created us in his own image. And so it says this is why all human life holds immeasurable value. Every person reflects different aspects of our maker. Our lives matter not because of what we accomplish, but because we're God's accomplishment. So if you think about it, the reason that we have such a struggle, and that there is a struggle to begin with for us to be able to have children, to conceive, and that we have to go through these problems is because of Eve, which I think I've talked about before. And it's her fault, and it makes me mad. Because God did not intend for this to be this way. But because of somebody else's mistake, we are suffering the consequences of that action. And that's why God sent his son to die on the cross for us, was so that we could have a chance to be with him in heaven. But when we look at this, we blame ourselves and we go, this is my fault. It's my fault that I can't have kids. It's my fault that I'm struggling. Um, and and like she says here, during my struggle with infertility, I saw myself as a loser. I latched onto the idea that being a mom was what a woman was supposed to be. After all, God gave us the physical tools to grow life, but because I wasn't performing the job I was made for, I felt worthless, and I can 100% agree with that. Um, did he design us to be moms, to have children, and to want that in our lives? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Does it mean we are a loser or a failure if we don't do that? No. No, it's not. And that's hard to process, and that's hard to accept, and that's hard to grasp and to hold on to, because that's what we think that we're supposed to do. So it's like it says here, and it's hard to get over that thought that we're not losers, that we're not worthless. And it says motherhood is a worthy and desirable role, but it's not the center of a woman's life. It can't be. No occupation can anchor our identity. Basing our sense of self on external things, our jobs, achievements, social status, marriage, and other relationships sets us up for disappointment. The minute something or someone fails to meet our expectations, our stability crumbles. 100%. I've gone through that, and I have losing my job, and I lost my sense of identity, and I lost, who I thought I was, and still trying to find that and figure that out and not feel like I'm worthless or causing problems or being just a bane of somebody's existence because I can't contribute to anything. Because I look at it and go, wow, well, I'm not making money anymore. I can't make babies apparently. And so, I sat there with that struggle. Sorry, this is hurting me. Of who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? I have no money coming in of my own. I have no way to contribute financially. I have no way to take the stress off my husband of having to do all of it. Um, and then when I'm stressed out, I tend to like to be alone. So then I don't want to be around anybody, which means my husband isn't spending time with me. I'm not spending time with my kids. I can't have more kids because I don't have the money to finance that. And something is wrong with me or my husband that we can't just make children naturally. And it's all of these things, and you sit there and you struggle and you don't know what to do, and you just want to cry, and that's okay. Cry. Let it out. Get it out. Take it to God. Um, if there are people who say if they could go back in time, what would they tell their younger self? And to be honest, I don't know what I would tell my younger self. I don't know if I would tell my younger self that it's okay, that things are going to work out, because I don't know right now how things are going to work out. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't think it would be fair to go back and tell my younger self that things are going to work out without me knowing, okay, well, this is how it's going to work out for me in the end, because that's not, I know me, and I know that when I was like, well, which way is going to work out? What's going to work out if I do this, if I do this, if I do this? So, I don't know how much I would go back and tell my younger self, because I would alter the decisions that I make if I could go back and fix, quote unquote, those things. So, um, you know, this this says who you truly are. And this is where it's talking about what you would go back and say to your younger self. If I could travel back a couple of decades and give my frizzy banged, buck-toothed kindergarten self a word of advice, I know what I'd say. Little Jen, go ahead and dream of being a mom. Keep strolling your stuffed dog around the living room and whispering bedtime prayers over your toy ponies. You're dabbling in the art of motherly love, a form of sacrifice that brings joy to your heart and glory to God. Also know this, motherhood isn't your identity. Your life won't transform from meaningless to purposeful once you welcome a child into your arms. The core of who you are lies deeper than any earthly label you hope to gain. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't agree with part of that, because I have heard of countless stories of people who their lives were changed forever after they had a child. They were going down a path that they shouldn't have gone down. They found out they were pregnant. They changed their whole life, and their life ended up completely different at the time of the birth of that child. So I don't necessarily agree. Now, maybe for Jen, that does. Maybe that's what that, but I don't think that's for everybody. So again, take this as kind of a grocery shopping, pick what fits for you and what doesn't. Just keep it out of the cart. Um, so he God, can heal you in every way, whether that's the healing of physical suffering, mental suffering, emotional suffering. He can heal you. He can do all of that. Blink of an eye, he can. It's having that faith that's hard. It's knowing that that's going to happen in his time and not ours, because we're a little impatient. Um, so part of the reflection here, the prayer and the act would be, how do you see yourself right now? Uh, at this moment, I see myself as strong. Um, at 11 o'clock at night, I don't. When other things are crashing around me, I see myself as a failure. I see myself as things piling on top that just make life even harder. Um, are you focusing more on what you want to be, a mother, or on what you have through Christ, a relationship with God as his daughter? And I think I go back and forth, which I still think that. Just knock something off. So I don't place my entire identity on being a mom. Um, I think I place my entire identity, or I did, especially at the time of this writing, on what I can contribute to life. And sometimes that's not good either, because sometimes that has absolutely nothing to do with God or my relationship with God. People keep texting me, and it's very frustrating. And so um, this is the part that I've written. So then you've got, in his book Abba's Child, author Brennan Manning encourages followers of Jesus to define yourself radically as one beloved by God. Would you define yourself this way, or does that make you uncomfortable? If the picture of God as your father brings up difficult memories, write what you feel, then ask the Lord to help you see him clearly, convinced that he's far better than any earthly father. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. I also have a really great relationship with my dad, so I think that helps contribute to that. But if if you don't, um, pray, ask him, talk to him about it. I don't know how to get into the psychological depth that would be required to analyze that or to help with that, and I'm not going to try to. The only thing I can say is ask God and pray for what he would give you to help you through that process and that struggle. Because this part, it doesn't make me uncomfortable. I know that he loves me, and I know that he's going to take care of me. And as much as it's a pain in the butt to have to wait for his timing and not my own. Sorry, this is doing something super weird. It keeps going out of focus. I apologize. Um, so the last bit here is, do you feel like your life is on hold or purposeless? 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 Purposeless. Answer honestly and consider whether you might be attaching your identity to the work of motherhood. For me, it's yes and no. I know who I am, but I also know who I was meant to be. Um, because while I know that, my life is not necessarily dependent on me being a mom, it's part of what I know that I'm meant to do, because God doesn't give us dreams just to continue to watch them be shattered. And so the people who say, you know, oh well, just don't focus on it. Well, that's harder to do than you think. Um, and people say, oh, don't stress and then it'll come. BS. The people who say, well, you'll have purpose without that. You have no idea. So then you're battling all of that, and then I think you could do it subconsciously, you could do it consciously. You double down on your life has no purpose if you don't have those things, and you get so wrapped up in your head, which is why having a community is important because it gets you out of that thought process and that mindset of this is the only purpose for my life, and if I don't have it, then why am I here? Um, but I think that God gave us those dreams that He wants us to continue to strive for them. And when you strive for those dreams, you ask Him, what steps do I need to take? Where do I need to go next? What do I need to do? So that's where I'm at. I'm in that phase now because I don't have a job. What do I do? How do I ensure that I can continue on with this? What do you want me to do, God? And stopping and waiting and going, hey, where am I at in your timeline? What's my next step? How do you want me to handle this? Um, so then we've got the prayer of, Dear Heavenly Father, it's hard not to feel like my life is falling apart. With infertility putting motherhood seemingly out of reach, I'm struggling to know who I am. I need you to shine your truth into my confusion. Let the reassurance of being your child comfort my ache over not being a mother, over missing my baby or babies in heaven. Thank you for creating me as a portrait of your majesty. Help me step into the roles and life work where you place me so I can share how amazing it is to be loved by you. In Jesus' name, amen. So, I mean, all of that is hard. All of that is not something that you want to do. All of that is a struggle to find that community because you might not want to, but find it, invest in it, help other people. They're going to help you. Pray and just know that you can talk to me at any time. Any questions that you ever have, I'm here. So hopefully this was somewhat of a help. Hopefully it's maybe better not being, an hour long. So I'll let you know how all my goodies come out. And I'll talk to you guys soon.